Hey guys, per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So CryptoWatch has added the 4 settings to Ichimoku Cloud, which is great. You can finally use the cloud I use on CryptoWatch. The reason to use CryptoWatch, I think they're great. They've really come a long way. They've added a ton of stuff since I've last really looked at the website. It's all free. That's really the best thing. Tons of time frames that you can't get on TradingView with a free account. They have tons of markets and exchanges. They have altcoins. They've got a lot of stuff. They've got extra themes, Heikin-Ashi, candlesticks, blah, blah, blah. If you haven't ever, definitely check them out. The only real reason I use TradingView over CryptoWatch is just for the drawing tools. So CryptoWatch people, if you're listening, if your drawing tools are comparable to TradingView, I will never go back to TradingView again for Bitcoin or crypto stuff. Next thing, I wrote another article for Brave New Coin. Check that out. I'm not really going to talk about much of it in the video, so just take a look at it. I had a nasty loss this week. For some people, it isn't that much, but it is what it is. So I'll explain how this happened. P&L was negative 1.1 on that China nonsense. And it's funny, I always share my trades, but then I always feel bad when people get boned by copying me. But so this was 2 Bitcoin long. And I actually purposely took Bitcoin off of one broker so that I wouldn't trade poorly and get in too big of a position size. All right, weekly Bitstamp. I'm just going to use all Bitstamp charts. So weekly Bitstamp. Again, this doesn't really instill into me, this candles I'm looking at, that we're headed for some massive bull run, okay? This sort of pattern looks very similar to this. It's very similar to this. So I think we're due for consolidation. I think the pivots, the yearly pivots look good as far as the range is concerned. Anywhere from 810 to 1100, something like that. That sounds good to me. It's the horizontal of the resistance turned into support now, hopefully. Even though we've only had one test of it, really. This candle, this current weekly candle, again, doesn't look great as far as bullish continuation is concerned, but it's certainly possible. I just think we're definitely leaning towards consolidation over doing anything of note. The only reason we would do anything is if ETF comes online. I really don't think we'll move otherwise right now. So here's the cloud. One thing I would rarely talk about on the cloud, but it's definitely worth paying attention to. The Kijun sort of sets momentum as well as support. So if we're flat on the Kijun, that just tells you on balance we haven't really gone anywhere. And you don't really need the cloud to see that, but it just kind of echoes what you're already seeing. So this was consolidation, and you'll see in here, Kijun was flat. This was consolidation, Kijun was flat. Kijun's flattened out again. So again, what is that saying? That I'm already saying consolidation. I like that the S1 is also the cloud support. So I think this year we'll either see R3 or S1. I don't think we've ever busted through R2 on the yearly, but I might be wrong on that. But I still think if the ETF goes online, I think we're going to see 1800. The 1800 pops up at another target. I can't remember why. Maybe the cloud, maybe the Pitchfork. I think it's the Pitchfork. The Pitchfork has us between 13 and 1800 by the end of the year if the bull trend continues at its current rate. So if we break below Kijun and the pivot here, again, this whole zone is fair game as far as where price may go. Hard to trade on the weekly time frame, but you can certainly trade it on lower time frames. But as we sit, everything's bullish. TK's bullish, prices above cloud, cloud's bullish, lagging span's bullish. We're starting to get a flattening of the Kumo week over week. So this is going to be another area. You know, if we break pivot and Kijun, you're looking at whatever this is, 640, I don't know what it is, which is basically, you know, the old resistance turned support. And this old resistance was the 50% fib of this. So it all makes sense to me. Just to have these confluence of zones, support resistance zones, because, you know, it makes sense because we didn't make a new high. We essentially just bounced down from the all-time high. So yeah, of course we're going to have the same 50% fib going up as we did down. Going to the daily, adding a Pitchfork. I know it looks busy, but we had the TK cross. This is why I went long. I was talking about this last week a ton on Twitter, on the BNC article, in the video. So I basically said, whenever we have a bullish TK cross above the cloud on the daily, for Bitcoin, it hasn't gone anywhere. On any other time frame, it's great. But for Bitcoin on the daily, it's only happened 4 times. It's never made a new high. So that's why I said, I don't think this is going to go anywhere. Regardless of that, I also said anytime you get all signals saying go long, you should go long. So that's what I did. I followed my own advice and got wrecked by China news and some technical evidence for reversal. The head and shoulders had sort of completed. We kept bouncing on this median line. It was questionable consolidation versus pushing through it, and we didn't. So the PBoC stuff just kind of fueled the fire. And you can see we went from this diag on the Pitchfork to this diag on the Pitchfork. There's also a ton of support here. This is the monthly pivot. Kijun, the cloud. So my stop was at the cloud, and if you're playing on the daily and you see a giant move like that, there's really nothing you can do other than either keep your stop where it is, which I recommend, or not use a stop, which I don't recommend, but some people don't. If I didn't use the stop, I'd still be in this trade. I'd still be down $50, but from the entry, but I wouldn't be out 1.1 coin. So depending how you play that, it could have been nastier than it was. We really want to hit this 870 level, I think, on the daily. I think we'll see that. And this whole setup is kind of lining up just like the Mike Hearn dump did in January 2016. Again, more consolidation. I don't think we're going to go anywhere. Here's the Winklevi ETF. And, if we do go nuts, this upper diag on the Pitchfork is definitely the target that I'd be looking for. On 4 hour, like I was talking about the last video, this was your entry. Your exit would have been garbage based on the cloud because it would have been too late. Bitcoin likes to take the elevator down a lot, so that's why I use the fractals instead of the TK lines as an exit. And people were asking me about targets on last video's comments. I'm really bad with targets as far as if I'm not trading on low time frames, I tend to just get stopped out every time on high time frames because we just get this giant move down. I try not to close trades manually. I try to just either get stopped out or hit my target. So I'm not the best person to ask about targets in general, but again, if you're using this inverted head and shoulders that was here, the target was like 1081 or something, and we hit like 1075 on this here wick. So we came close, but again, if your close was at 1081, you wouldn't have gotten closed, and you would hit your stop instead. So maybe you were using a trailing stop. But anyway, this is what the 4 hour CNY looked like. In the last video, I was saying that the fractals looked really clean. Again, what the fractals are is high, low, high. And if your entry is here, you just hold it until you see a fractal, and that becomes your new stop. Hold it until you see another fractal, your new stop. Hold it until you see another fractal, new stop, new stop. So your stop would have been here. You would have been stopped out at this candle here, which would have been fine. This is what's called a Kijun bounce, where it bounces from the support. So if you're playing, if you're trading on an exchange with lots of entries that you're able to input, while you're already in this trade, you also have bids on the Kijun this whole time because that's high probability retrace target. And until you get boned like you do on this candle, I mean, there's not much you can do no matter what you're doing. It is what it is. I don't know. I don't know how to trade that. So that's just an event, a non-event which people knew about, at least certain people. I certainly did. I didn't do anything about it as far as closing my trade, but I knew there was a PBoC meeting coming. I didn't think it would dump the market because I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. I think closing withdrawals to Litecoin and Bitcoin is a big deal, but again, does it affect Bitcoin protocol? No. So who cares? This is going to be a blip in the life of Bitcoin. So back to the stamp cloud, 4 hour super neutral. TK lines are touching. They've been touching for a long time. So it just kind of says we're snaking in between the 50% fib, and you'll see that on lower time frames as well. 50% fib of the move is the Kijun, which is currently the Tenkin as well. And there's also a flat Kumo here, so we're just super flat. We might just go flat until this diag on the Pitchfork and then make a decision. Just because I think the Pitchfork is reliable at this point. You can see all these hits here. There's support, support, resistance, 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 and then support, support, support. So I think the Pitchfork is real. I'm a fan of the Pitchfork is what I'm trying to say. So that's the 4 hour. Here's the hourly. Same thing like I was saying, it's just snaking in between. 50% fib of the move. Now we're kind of in the middle of the diag on the Pitchfork. I think a great buy would, if it even gets this low, is this zone here. Like a wick into this pivot, the monthly pivot. As far as bids are concerned, I have bids at 995 right now just because that was the 50% fib. I saw it come up and I figured it would come back down. We'll see if it comes down far enough. My stop's around 960, so we'll see what happens there. This was the 5-minute. You can see it's really clean. If you use the lower time frames, I said this before, but use the lower time frames and just look at a lot of data, and it'll help you see stuff you don't otherwise see on higher time frames necessarily. So all I did was fib this out, and you can see how here's the 50% was resistance this whole time, and then hopefully now it's support. So, you know, bids at 988 are also probably good, or 999, 990, plus or minus $5 from the support resistance is always a good idea. And then the 30-minute stamp, I've just tweeted this out, but we're breaking down bearish. So that's a good sign for more bearish momentum, probably again to that 988 level at least. So that's all I have for today. Nothing too exciting. I think a really great re-entry long would be longing the TK cross and then price above the cloud on the 4-hour. So just let this go sideways, stay out, and then re-long after the TK cross happens. Kind of like here, how it just kind of went sideways, and then I was like, oh, I'm out of the cloud now. What if we go up a little bit? Like something like that, where the TK lines are already bullish, and we go from there. So per usual, like, dislike, comment, subscribe, donate, hit me up on Twitter, Telegram, share it up on social media, and happy trading.